Honorable viewers, I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel, Department of English. Today I would like to share with you Tithonus written by Lord Alfred Tennyson. Today I will discuss summary of Tithonus about the myth analysis of Tithonus and about Alfred Lord Tennyson. So let's get started. Tithonus by Lord Alfred Tennyson is written in the form of a dramatic monologue in which only one speaker is used to tell an entire story. There is no consistent rhyme, scheme, or pattern of matter in the piece, meaning that it is written in blank or free verse. Tithonus was first written under the title Tithon in 1833. It did not appear to a wide readership until 1859, when it was published under its full name. While not one of Tennyson's most popular or well-known pieces, Tithonus is a characteristic of the poet's style and a wonderful example of his ability to expand an already existing myths and legends. Summary of Tithonus. Tithonus by Lord Alfred Tennyson describes the plight of Tithonus, who is curious to an immortal life in which he continues to age. The poem begins with the speaker Tithonus desiring how sorrowful the naturally again woods make him. Unlike all the other elements of the world, he is unable to die. He cannot, as they do, return to the earth and become something new. He is slowly being consumed by the hours of his life that will never end. He is stuck in the east with his once beloved youth, who is the cause of his wretched estate. The speaker describes himself as no longer being a man but a mere shadow who is forced to see the never again face of his beloved ever morning. The next few lines he quickly outlines how he came to be this way. He describes asking use for immortality and her granting it to him without considering his youth. He will never pass beyond the goal of ordinance, or reach death as other men do. It is obvious to him now the mistake he has made. Every morning of Tithonus' life he is forced to see the sunrise and observe yours. Chariot take her into the sky where he once adored her. Every day he asks her to take back what she has given but receives no answer. He fears that she is unable to retract something she has given out. In the next section of the poem, the speaker is remembering an old lover he used to have and the simple times they were together. It is this life that he should have had. They lay together, touching mouths and eyelids without pretense or the were the pool of immortality. The poem concludes with the speaker asking that you ferry him from the east where he has been trapped and allow him to die. If he was to do so, he could join the other men in the earth and she could always look down on his grave. About the myth. Tithonus is a character that features in Greek mythology and is son of a king of Troy, Laomedon. His mother was born of the river Scamander. In the story used or Aurora, the embodiment of Tao, fell in love with Tithonus. Together they had two children. After this, in an effort to stay with her beloved forever, Zeus asked the god Zeus to grant Tithonus eternal life. Zeus agreed to this proposition, but Zeus had not been specific enough. Tithonus was to live forever but also continue aging. He would not retain his youth as Zeus would. Throughout his long life, Tithonus continued to age, never reaching the threshold of death. Tennyson's version of this myth, it is not Zeus that grants immortality but Zeus herself. Analysis of Tithonus' first stanza. The woods decay and fall. The vapors weep their burden to the ground. Man comes and tills the field and lies beneath. And after many a summer dies the swan, me only cruel immortality consumes. I wither slowly in thin arms, here at the quiet limit of the world. A white-haired shadow roaming like a dream, the ever silent spaces of the east, for flooded mist and gleaming halls of morn. So let's see the analysis. The poem begins with the poet's speaker, Tithonus, son of Laomedon, a king of Troy, bemoaning his immortality as he looks around the world. Around him, he can see the woods decay. He repeats the phrase twice for emphasis as his simple act of life moving one to death is beyond the realm of his understanding. After decaying, the woods fall and the vapor or mist covers the ground. This vapor is part of the process of reincarnation through which every living thing participates. The vapors weep their burden to the ground, and the men come along and till the field and all that lies within it. The earth is bruised and reborn. Every living thing goes through this except for Tithonus. Tithonus is alone in the world. He is isolated by immortality and he despises it. Many members of mankind have desired the ability to live forever. Tithonus was no exception, and his story and how he came to hate his own eternal life will be described by the speaker throughout the poem. He is being consumed by his own immortality and is slowly withering within his own arms. There is no one there to soothe him who can understand what he is going through, so he must take comfort in his own presence. The next line, he describes himself as a white-haired shadow that is traveling the world in a dream. He has seen and done everything. He is at the limit of the world, trapped in the east with youth. The speaker has seen all the beauty the planet has to afford and is now completely alone and miserable. The second stanza allows for this grey shadow once a man, so glorious in his beauty and the choice. Who madest him they choose him that instinct. To his great heart none other than a god. I ask thee, give me mortality, then detest thou grant mine asking with a smile. Like all the men who care not how they give, but the strong hours indignant worked their will, and beat me down and mud, and wasted me, and though they could not end me, let me name it to dwell in presence of immortal youth, immortal age beside immortal youth. And while I was in ashes, can the love, the beauty make amends, though even now close over us, the silver star, the guide, shines in those tremulous eyes that fill with tears. To hear me, let me go, take back the gift. Why should a man desire in any way to vary from the kindly race of men, or pass beyond the goal of ordinance, where all should pass as is most made for one? In the second stanza of this piece, the speaker explains how he came to be in this sorry state. He is now a grey shadow, but was once so glorious in his beauty that he was chosen by the to be granted immortality. It is understood from the original myth as summarized above that that is a reference in this poem to use or aura, the personification of the dawn. After she fell in love with Tithonus, he begat her, as many a mortal would, to give me immortality. In this version of the story, was granted Tithonus' wish like a wealthy man who can give away things at will without being concerned about their own well-being. The immortality was not what Tithonus was expecting, though. Is granted him eternal life, but not eternal youth. Since he was made immortal, Tithonus has been again any as would any normal man. At this point in the story, the hours have walked their wheels. They have beat him down and ousted him until he was shell of his former self. Although time was unable to force him towards a final death, it did continue the aging process. Now Tithonus is forced to dwell in the presence of immortal youth, referring to youth. While he is in ashes, his never-ending age is made worse by the fact that youth is completely untouched by time. The next lines of the poem, the speaker is pleading with youth to please take back the gift. He hopes to convince her that he is, at this point, better of dead. She has tears in her tremulous eyes as she listens to his play. He tells her that no man would desire to diverge so far from normal mankind, and that no one, if they knew what misery this was, would wish to hide from death. As was demonstrated in the first stanza, he now understands the importance of the cycle of life. He would never make this mistake again. Third stanza. The third stanza, the speaker is watching the sky right before the dawning of the sun and the coming of use. The sky is like the dark wall that all of the humankind came from before they were born. It holds a mystery to Tithonus that he believes he will never now know the answer to. In the following lines, he describes what use looks like as she is cresting the horizon. He can see her pure brows and shoulders, her cheeks light up red and her eyes find it. Her team of horses, the wild team or which love thee, then shake off the darkness from their mouths. The horses plow forward and whisk you into the sky. The speaker concludes this section of the poem by saying that whenever he makes his new request of her that she takes back his immortality, she departs, he is raised and unable to even receive a yes or no answer from the God that used to be his beloved. Fourth stanza. The first line, why wilt thou ever scare me with the tears? And last line, while illusion like a mist rolls into stars. Let's take this. In the fourth stanza, he asks yours if she will ever give him an answer, even if it is one shown in tears. He knows if he were to see her crying, he would know that the gods themselves cannot recall their gift. The speaker is afraid that there is no way for you to take back what she has given. The next lines of the poem, the speaker is reminiscing one the better days of his life when with another heart he laid down beside another lover. He is remembering happier times in his life before he even became involved with youth. Perhaps He is thinking if this had been this chosen path, he would have lived a better, fuller life. He remembers the calls of these loves here in the light and heard outlined preset against the light of the sun. He was the most alive then. Tithonus could feel his blood or glow with glow as he lay with her together they pressed their mouth, forehead, and eyelids and kissed flaming kisses. Tithonus is dreaming of this better time in which this unknown lover whispered that strange song I heard Apollo sing while the city of Troy or Ilion was being built. While this is a past life that he thinking of, it is wrapped up in these thoughts of yours. He cannot even see this past lover without her being present as the light behind the lover's body. Fifth is in the first line, yet hold me not forever in pain rest. And the last line, and thee returning one day silver wheels. That's the expression. In the final stanza of the poem, Tithonus is asking you to no longer hold him in peace where the sun always rises. His nature is unable to mix with her own, even though they may both be immortal. His disease and constitution are no longer what they were. Tithonus does not feel for use the same way as he used to. Our light feels to him like a cold bathe that wrinkle, wrinkle his feet. This he experiences every morning when the sun is rising and sitting steam floating up of the fields around him. He pleads with her to release him and let him return to the ground. If she was release him as he so deeply desires, she will still be able to renew her beauty every morning and see his grave within the earth. He will die and earth forget this empty court, or the empty days in which he has been lived. About Alfred Lord Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson was born in 1809 in Somerville, Lincolnshire, England. Lincolnshire, England. He was one of 12 children and had, by the age of 12, written his first epic poem that consisted of 6,000 lines. In 1827, Tennyson left his home to attend Trinity College, Cambridge. It was there he and his brother Charles co-published a book of poems titled Poems by Two Brothers. This book put Tennyson on the radar of other prolific college writers and he made friends with another student, Arthur Hallam. After a brief but intense friendship, Hallam died, leaving a bereft Tennyson to devote a number of poems to his memory. From 1830 to 1832, Tennyson published two more books of poetry. These were not met with outstanding reviews and the poet was greatly disappointed. His naturally shy disposition would keep him from publishing again for another 9 years. Tennyson finally met with some success in 1842 after the publication of this book, Poems in Two Volumes. When Tennyson published in memoriam one of the pieces dedicated to his college friend Hallam, his reputation was solidified throughout Britain. That same year he married Emily Shalhoub, with whom he would have two sons. Tennyson's popularity and success allowed him to continue writing full-time and purchase a home for his family in the country. Tennyson died in 1892 and remains one of the most popular Victorian poets. So that's all about today's topic for the time being. Thanks for your patience, sharing. Bye bye.